Hey, it's John. Welcome back to the show, and welcome back to the latest edition of Latter Day Albums. The premise of this series is to talk about Latter Day albums in a legacy band or artist catalog that don't get enough love or recognition. Before we discuss the albums today, let me introduce you to my distinguished guest. You may know him for his wonderful YouTube channel, D'Arcy Ska, as well as his appearances on Tim's Vinyl Confessions and Grab a Stack of Rock. My friend, it's not Briggs and Stratton, it's D'Arcy Briggs. Welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to talk about this album.
I am as well. You're very welcome. I'm glad that you're here with me today, D'Arcy. We're going to talk about our Latter Day album that wasn't released too long ago compared to some of the other Latter Day albums that we discuss on this album, that we discuss on this channel. This is the Beats, or as we say in North America, the English Beats, with their sixth album, but their fourth album with Dave Wakeling. Here We Go Love. This was released on May 25, 2018 on Here We Go Records. So this was independently released by the Beats and Dave Wakeling. This is the first album to feature Dave Wakeling on lead vocals since 1982's Special Beats Service. This is a 57.5 minute album, 13 tracks. This was produced by Kyle Hoffman. And I don't think that a lot of fans of the beat really know this exists because this got very little publicity when it came out. I only found out about it a few years later and I bought it because I'm a very big fan of those first three albums, so I definitely had to have this. There are 30 musicians and backing singers on this album, so we're not going to go into everyone who played on it, but I will tell you that both Andy Cox and Everett Morton play a small role on this album. They were in the original Beats. Dave Wakeling was their lead singer from the beginning. He was there for the first three albums, and then later he and Rankin Roger would leave and form General Public, who would release three albums from the mid 80s to the mid 90s. And then we would also have a different version of the Beats led by Rankin Roger, and they released two albums as well. So that's why I'm saying there's six albums by the Beat. So we're going to talk about Here We Go Love today. But before we do, D'Arcy, when did you first get familiar and acquainted with the English Beats music?
Yeah, I mean, so it's in my name, D'Arcy Ska. Ska music was sort of the first genre I fell hard into. Sometimes you fall into, you become a metal guy, you become a rock guy, pop, whatever. For me, ska music was the first genre that kind of really attached myself to, my identity to. And for the people that know the genre, it comes in waves, first wave, second wave, like we're talking about today, or two-tone, third wave. So I started as a fan of a lot of the third wave ska bands. So Real Big Fish is one, Goldfinger, Less Than Jake, so on and so forth. And then you hear about third wave, so you go, okay, well, maybe I should, go back, learn the history, go to the roots. From there, you go to that second wave, that two-tone. And uh, considering how popular the music was at the time in the UK, there's only a handful of bands that kind of rose to prominence. The Specials are one, Madness is another one, and the Beat, or the English Beat, are kind of right up there as well. So that's, when I first heard of the band, early 2000s, kind of learning about the roots of the genre.
Okay, very good. So I remember Special Beats Service when it came out in 1982. They played Sayer for Later on our pop radio station, WKRZ FM, later just KRZ FM. And I also remember seeing the video on MTV for Save It for Later. So that was the beat that I knew. Fast forward about 10 years later, my younger brother Robert is really getting into ska music at that point. And he introduces me to I Just Can't Stop It. So I picked, actually, I heard What Is Beat, the compilation, because he had that. So I made a copy for myself and I really got into it. And then I actually bought, this wasn't my first beat purchase. My first beat purchase was actually What
Oh
Happened
wow, yeah, yeah, yeah.
and Special Beat Service. I bought these in the early 90s. And then maybe by the mid 90s, I bought I Just Can't Stop It. But it was my younger brother, well, my only brother, who got me into the ska version of the English beat. He introduced me to Selector. He
Right, yeah.
introduced me to Special AKA. He introduced me to the specials. Madness was played all over MTV and on the radio. We heard Our House all over the radio in 1983. You couldn't avoid Our House. Then we got MTV in the house in 84. And I saw the videos for One Step Beyond and It Must Be Love. And then later on, my brother bought all those cassettes. So he's really big into ska. And to this day, the last 20 years, he's been booking a lot of ska shows here in the Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, Pennsylvania area. He books a lot of different bands. A band that he really books a lot, I'm sure you're very familiar with, is the Pie Tasters.
Oh, they're a great band. Love them. Seen them live many times. Yeah.
They're like this. Like he's booked them probably a few dozen times at least. But he still does that. I mean, he always does that on the side. He's always had a regular job, but that was always his side gig, was putting on these ska shows, but have like 3 or 4 bands at a time, and they're a lot of fun. So we're going to talk about this album today. Here We Go Love. We're going to talk about what we like about this album, what we may not be so crazy about. So, D'Arcy, what really stands out for you on this album? What do you really like about this album?
I think what I really do like about it is, and maybe it's also what people might not like about it, is how representative it is of the band's complete sound. I think, and you sort of alluded to this. So their debut, fantastic album. It's my personal favorite. But as a band, that's when they're at their most ska. You know,
Yes.
they do have some ska in the next 2 albums. You know, with What Happened and Special Beat Service, but they definitely fall more into that sort of kind of that new wave pop rock that was sort of in popular at the time as well. Sort of a similar track to what the Specials did at the time. They have a debut that's full of ska music, and then the subsequent albums sort of drop it more and more. That said, this album sort of takes all of that together. So it's the kind of thing where if you're a fan of that first album, there's a lot to love on here, but not a whole lot. But if you're a fan of everything the band has to offer, I think this is an album you should check out as well. We talked about how many musicians are on here as well. Maybe that makes it feel a little less personal. Maybe it feels a little
Yes.
more like a project than it does as a band. I saw the band in 2009. They were doing a tour. So I couldn't even tell you who was in the band at that time. I know Dave Wakeling was in the band. Don't know who else was in the band at that time either, but it was probably some sort of arrangement of these players.
Okay. I saw them April 7, 2023. And by that
Okay.
point, it's the beat starring Dave Wakeling. So they've been
Right.
going.
Yeah, I think.
So were they called that?
Yeah, when I saw them, it was just the English beat when I saw it. Yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So
Yeah.
so now they have Dave Wakeling on the marquee. So it's Dave and a lot of other talented musicians who I do not know who they are. When I listen to this album, I hear very little ska.
Yeah.
I hear a lot more general public.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very general public to me.
Mhm.
And if you were to compare to the first 3 albums by the English Beat, definitely closer in spirit to Special Beat Service, I think, which I think what I've said for decades about this band is I Just Can't Stop It is the ska album. What Happened is the reggae album. And Special Beat Service is the immaculate pop album.
Exactly, 100%. And I think if you're going to box yourself in, through genres, that's unfortunate because I do think there's a lot to love on all three of the albums, but don't go in expecting one type of thing.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, you have like remnants of what they did before on albums 2 and 3. So you have remnants of what you heard on I Just Can't Stop It on What Happened, remnants of what happened on Special Beat Service. That's not, but I think like the focus, like the main, if you were to put it in a box, so to speak, and put it as a main genre, that's kind of how I'd go.
Yeah.
This is very general public to me. Better recording though, because I think with the general public albums, they sound of its time. They're very 80s sounding like, and then the album they did in the 94, I believe, doing what I'll Take You There on it. I believe that was on there. And I believe it was in a movie before that. The cover of from the Staple Singers.
Yeah.
That seems to be recorded a little loud.
Yeah.
This, I think, might be the best sounding album by the English Beat, period. Although I do love the dry production in those first 3. Now, song-wise, yeah, general public, a little bit of Special Beat Service, more Special Beat Service than the previous 2. Definitely a lot of general public, very English pop. And there's like a lot going on. And with the rhythm section's very, they're very good at what they do, but they don't take all those chances like David Steele and Everett Morton took. I mean, that rhythm section was insane. That was
I think
one of the best rhythm sections ever was.
Yeah, and I think you're summing it up right. Same with the production. It's good at what it does, but they're not taking any chances. It sounds good. It sounds clean, but there's nothing identifiable about it.
Yes, yeah, I would definitely agree with that. So, what are the standout tracks for you on this one?
For me, let me just pull up my notes here. I think the opener is quite good. How Can You Stand There? That's probably one of the more ska tracks on the album. It's a good way to open it up. There's a few other kind of hidden gems I would like to point out. I think I really like If Killing Worked for the chorus. I think it's a nice message. It's a nice sort of pop rock song. I think what do we got? Where is it? Oh, the every time you told me. I think that might be one of the gems on the album as well. Just a fun kind of rhythm and blues song as well.
That's what I said about it as well. I have that as one of the highlights. It's very, very 60s R&B.
Yeah.
A sax on it. It's very, very catchy. Those songs, yeah, those are definitely standouts for me. Redemption Time, I really like.
Mm-hmm.
You got remnants of other tracks in here. You got remnants, a little bit of Nightclub by the Specials. I hear that kind of vibe on here. And you hear some remnants, a little bit of Rotating Head, even though from Special Beat Service, even though it's not as kinetic as that. You actually have like a faster chorus on here, and then it goes more verse, I'm sorry. And then you go reggae in the chorus. I think this is really cool. The instrumental part, though, I really like that part that sounds like Nightclub. Some of the songs on here I think are a little too long, but I think the 5-minute track listing here, timing here, works very, very well because you got a lot of nice instrumental parts in the song that work very well. I like the ballad, the somber Never Die. That is a very emotional song, and it fits in well in here. It actually gives you a little bit of a break because the first 5 songs are just very danceable, and very catchy. And then we have that song, Never Die, which is very somber, and the strings are really playing a large part in it. And then it's only after the bridge comes in, after two verses and a bridge and a chorus, that we get the rhythm section actually coming in. And it's a very passionate song. I think Dave's vocal performances on here is wonderful. Excellent
Yeah,
track.
it's a bit of a surprising track in that, I mean,
Yeah.
you kind of it's a very emotional ballad, something you wouldn't necessarily expect to hear. And the reason I find it so shocking is you wouldn't expect to hear it so well done. You know, I'm almost prepared to hear a poorly done ballad from the band than I am such a well done ballad.
Right, because that was never their forte, even then when they were
Exactly.
even when they were going more pop on special beat service. And even with general public, they didn't do ballads.
No, yeah, it's just kind of a neat thing to hear, and it is a little bit out of left field. You know, people might not be ready for it, but if you're open for it, if you're kind of willing to accept that this is a melange of what the band has, then yeah, give it a listen.
Definitely. You're Stuck. That's more ska to me.
Yeah,
Perhaps maybe the most ska song on there, including the song that has ska in the title.
yep,
But
yep. I have that noted. Yep.
yeah,
I've also got, so right before you're stuck, I do have a note for You Really Ought to Know. So track eight on that. To me, it sounds so much like a Madness song. I can easily hear kind of
yeah,
Madness's unique kind of sound taking that one on, which is nice to hear from that. And I think part of that is coming from that large swath of musicians involved. If you look into some of them, you do have, you know, radiation from the specials. You have people that have been involved with the Wailers involved. So you do have kind of to some degree a pedigree of not just studio musicians represented. But yeah, You're Stuck is a super upbeat track as well that, you know, you're starting to gear up for the end of the album. So it's nice to, you know, pick the energy back up as well.
yeah, exactly. One, the
Mhm.
only I think is very catchy, very cool English pop on here. I like the subtle use of the organ that weaves in and out on this song. Wonderful vocal melody on it. The lyrics are very scathing,
Yeah,
but but Dave writes this in a very intelligent way. He could be singing about a number of people here, but it's definitely about somebody who is very egotistical. No doubt about that.
definitely. Yeah. And that's something I think maybe the two-tone bands did it best, whether it be, you know, emotional commentary or political commentary. They knew how to write, you know, pretty scathing songs, and I think that comes from that, you know, UK British punk influence that they brought in as well.
Yes, definitely. That is true. So
Yeah.
it must I'm gathering it maybe a little more political here, but
Mhm.
I'm not really gonna judge. But that's what came out at me when I was reading the lyrics to this. What do you think of the title song?
Let me pull up my note there. For me, it's a really energetic track, but I think I'm starting to miss the ska at this point. I
Okay.
think by this point you're realizing what the album is. You know,
Mhm.
you have your opener, you have, you know, track three, so you've got your reggae song. So you know, you're maybe expecting something like that first album, maybe that second with What Happened. I think again, it's a great song. I had to give the album a few listens to give it a fair shake. Um, I don't think it's the strongest title track,
Okay.
but you don't need to be in the mindset that the title track is the strongest track on an album.
Right.
If anything, I think maybe thematically, it really sums up the album too. I think it's really good, kind of just an energetic track.
Definitely. For me, a
Mhm.
lot of the standouts are on the first half of the album, although I do quite like You Really Not Ought to Know, but You
Mhm.
Really Ought to Know by Now, and You're Stuck tremendously. And Every Time You Told Me, I think, is a very strong track. But it seems as though the first six,
Mhm.
Here We Go Love, the title song, may be the weakest of those six to
Yeah.
use that term. but I mean, it's still solid.
Mhm. I think so, but I think even yeah. So track 7, "The Love You Give." My note here is I think it's around here where I started taking the off ramp. Just meaning, I'm checking out of the album a little bit, and it's a bit more of a struggle by this point with that track.
Yes, I was thinking the same thing. I wrote it's decent and it has a nice chorus and a nice short piano solo.
Hmm. Which it does. That's fine.
Right.
But again, it is
Doesn't
what it is.
it is what it is. Like it doesn't stand out like some of these others. Some of these, especially in the early part of the album, and the couple on the second half, some of these are
Mhm.
quite infectious. But
Yeah,
you also have a lot of other songs on here that they're like okay, like Dem Call It Ska.
yeah, yeah. It's fine. And so you talk about how the album starts. For me, the last 3 songs are just kind of okay.
Mm,
Um, Especially the ending song. So it's just under 7 minutes. "Be There For You." It's a reggae song, so it's pretty low energy. Just feels like not the smartest way to end your album. I was sort of expecting them to end with another high energy track, the way they open the album. I think of any genre, that's one of the best ways to kind of open and close an album is with, a matching energy,
yes.
just to reinforce the theme, whether it's a slow ballad or whether it's, a hardcore thrash metal song, whatever it is, open and close in a very similar way. I think it's a missed opportunity to take that almost 7 minute long reggae song and force you to listen to it at the very end. Maybe put it somewhere in the middle of the album or something like that.
The one thing I was thinking, yeah, before I get into my thoughts on that, which are very similar to yours,
Yeah.
some of the songs, while I find them very catchy and infectious, sometimes I think they just go a little too long. And I think that's because I'm in the mind frame of those first 3 albums where you rarely had a song go after past 3.5 minutes.
Yeah.
Because a lot of those songs, and not just the catchy singles, the album tracks, they were always around 302, 254, things like
Mhm.
that. So some of these, if Killing Worked has a wonderful groove on that and is a catchy chorus, but after a while you're like, okay, this is
Yeah.
fine. Okay, like let's get the fade out in now. Having said that, Be There For You, yes, that drags.
Mhm.
You're saying low energy. And yeah, cool sax solo. What I wrote is it's fine early, and then it just gets draggy.
Exactly. And it's reggae as a genre. It's repetitive, of course it is, but you can at least, put in, especially by this point, you can have some cool production. You can go into, some sort of dub extended mix by
Right,
the end to kind of
exactly.
fade the album out. But that's not, they just kind of kept it on loop, you know.
Very good. What's your favorite album? I'm going to go off track a little bit here.
Yeah,
Your D'Arcy Ska. So I'm gathering your favorites. Is this bad boy?
of course. You mentioned I should grab my prop. I can see where it is on the other side of the room, but I have the record store day release of that has some, extended cuts. I have the complete beat box set that has, all the unreleased B-sides and BBC sessions. Um, Especially, I mean, they have such a compact discography that it's not hard to complete it. So that was one of my goals. And with that box set, super easy to do and just dive right into the band.
Do you have that box set nearby?
Do I? Let's take a look. It's not. Here's the box set there.
Okay.
So it comes with.
How many
There's beat.
discs are in that?
There's 4.
Okay.
So disc 1, I just can't stop it. Uh, Disc 2, What Happened? Disc 3, Special Beat Service, and these all have bonus tracks on them.
Mm-hmm.
And then the 4th disc is a 2 disc set. So disc 1 of that is 12-inch versions and dubs, and then disc 2 is the BBC Peel sessions and a live in Boston release.
Oh, okay. Very good.
Yeah,
Would it perhaps be at the Boston Opera House?
it is. Yes.
November 19, 1982.
Oh no, this is 79. Oh Nope. 82, you're right. Yep.
Okay, reason I'm saying is because I
Mhm.
bought the Rhino re-release,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and this one has the bonus tracks. It has one live track from Hammersmith Palace in October of 82, and we got four tracks from Boston Opera House on November
Mhm.
19 of 82. And some of the other bonus tracks are the original single versions and extended versions of Hands Off, She's Mine, and Twist and Crawl.
Yeah, so I think that's probably very likely sort of an arrangement of what's on this box as well.
Okay,
And
very
there's a nice little booklet as well.
okay. Did
Yeah.
you did you pick up the vinyl reissue or did you just stick with the CDs?
No, I've got, yeah, it was a record store day release, so it's red vinyl, and I think it's exactly what's on that CD. It's got,
Yeah, the
a
reason
couple
I
bonus
mentioned it is
tracks. Yeah,
because when I bought this for myself, I bought the vinyl for my brother Robert because
right.
he's clearly the vinyl guy. I'm the CD guy. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, very good. So, Darcy, how would you rank Here We Go Love on
Mhm.
a scale of 1 to 10?
I'm gonna have to be mean to the album, and I don't want to be mean to the album, but you know what? I'm gonna give it a 6.
Okay.
It's not a terrible album. It could be a 5. It's not a terrible album, but I think if you want to listen to this band, I would go back to those original 3 albums. And if you want more ska, get the first. If you want more reggae, get this. I think you can mix and match a lot a lot more easily than you can just picking up this album. This kind of gives you a breadth, but you can go in a lot deeper with picking up one of the other albums. How about you?
I give it a 7.
Okay.
Okay, because I think there are some very strong tracks on here.
Mhm.
Having said that, I don't know if there's anything on the same level as I Just Can't Stop It.
Exactly. Yeah.
A few of the songs like How Can You Stand There, Redemption Time, Every Time You Told Me You're Stuck, maybe could have made Special Beat Service.
Mhm.
For me, I like the production. I do I miss the rhythm section, but my thing is I always compare to older work. A lot of people don't agree with that. That's usually how I listen to albums. I do like a lot of this, but after a while, I think it gets a little samey, and I think some of the tracks are a little long. And like you had indicated, I don't think the album ends very well. But the last three songs, that's exactly how I had it.
Yeah.
So for me, it's a 7. But if you were to ask me, this is a 10, right? This is a 9.
Yeah.
What happened? And this was the grower for me. This one,
Yeah.
I always liked it, but I got to love it over time. And this is probably like a 9.5. This is a wonderful album.
Exactly. I think I'm right there with you for ranking all those albums. I think
Okay.
it's a band I think people, they listen to the first album and want just more of that. And that's not what the band did. And you can't fault them for it. They produced some great pop albums.
They certainly did. And the thing is, and I'm gathering when you saw them, this was similar.
Mhm.
When you go to see them live, 70% of the set is I just
It
can't
was a
stop it.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it is. It's like when I saw them and I'm looking at the set list that they're out there this year here in the United States,
Mhm.
they're playing two songs from General Public, Tenderness, and I'll Take You There. They're playing one song each from What Happened and Special Beat Service, and the rest of the show, nothing off of this.
No.
Although when I saw them in 2023, they did play Dem Called Scott.
Okay. And I
Rest
think
of the
that's
Yeah, rest of the sets this though. Yeah.
and I think that's how it is with a lot of these bands. I've seen all kinds of bands from this era, the ska bands from that time. I mean, we're not going to see the specials anymore, but same thing. They would just mostly play stuff from the first album,
Yeah.
nothing from special AKA or more specials, anything like that. Um, I saw Neville Staple, who was in the specials and then went solo. Same
Okay.
thing, just played stuff from that first album. I think only Selector, same thing, play stuff from that first album. I think maybe Madness are one of the only bands that have had a career that extended more than just that first album.
Yes, definitely. And I co-sign with you about the Selector. I saw them
Yeah.
in 2019, and they've
Mhm.
released a lot of albums,
Yeah.
which I didn't really know until I went to see them. And I met Pauline Black. She was awesome.
Mhm.
And they were hitting a few songs off those later albums and maybe a couple off of Celebrate the Bullet. But yeah, over half of that set was too much pressure. But
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
mean, but that's a 10 album too. That's a classic as well.
Yeah.
So we are discussing the English beat or the beats. Here we go, love. Those of you who are watching, thank you so much for joining us today. What do you think of the English beats music? And what do you think of this album? Do you know this album? What are your favorite songs by the English beat? Do you swear by I Just Can't Stop It? You don't want to hear anything else? Or do you want to hear the breadth of their catalog, the depth that they have with the reggae sounds of what happened and the wonderful pop songs that are special beat service and the great pop songs on this one? And Here We Go, Love, and of course the three albums that Dave and Rankin Roger did with general public. Please let us know in the comments what you think of the English Beats music and this album. Here We Go, Love. D'Arcy, thank you so much for joining me
Amazing.
today and for talking about a Latter Day album that doesn't get enough love or recognition. The English Beat. Here We Go, Love.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome. So, D'Arcy, what do you have going on your channel, D'Arcy Scott?
You know what? I've got all these ideas percolating, but I think one project we're going to start. So in Canada, especially if you've followed Gravistack Rock and Tim's Vinyl's Confessions, certainly we've talked about Much Music.
Yes.
Canada's MTV. They put out a compilation series called Big Shiny Tunes. They had another one. They had Much Dance was dance music, but Big Shiny Tunes was sort of the alt rock series. So my plan is to go album by album, kind of dissecting each release. I have the first 10. They did 14 in total. Um, just going through each one. That's my project for this year.
Nice.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm looking forward to seeing that when you put that out. That is
that'll be
awesome.
good. Yeah, the first one came out in 96. So, just think of what was popular on alternative radio at that time. Throw in a few obligatory Canadian content bands that don't really fit. And then there you go.
Sweet. Oh, I'm looking forward to checking that out. Thank you all so much for checking out this show today. Do what you love, and we'll talk to you soon.